Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of The Snake Pit. I'm Stress, joined once again by Duke and Mac. Welcome back to the show. Everybody loved having you here the first time, so, we thought we'd bring you back on for a second episode. Hopefully we've made a few upgrades to the show this time, and it'll be a more pleasant experience to watch. But we're recording this just before the LEC returns. We've all been away for 2 weeks, I guess you can call it, on Rift Rivals break, nearly 3 weeks. How did you guys spend your time? Was it full of delights like scrimming, or did you get some time off?
We got 3 days off.
Okay.
3 days off, and then we started scrimming again. So let's say 2 weeks and a half of training.
What does 3 days off look like for you, Mac?
I went back to the UK.
Okay.
Spent some time there with my girlfriend.
Nice. How is the country still? We won't go into politics or anything, but is it still
Still looking
alive?
pretty grim, yeah.
Nice. I'm going there later today, so I'll get to experience that for myself.
Enjoy.
Always fun. Duke, what did you manage to get up to on the 3 days?
Yeah, I had the chance to not go back to the UK, but to go back to France.
How's France doing?
It was fine. It's pretty short break, so didn't have time to do much. Playing board games. Yeah, the nerd life.
The nerd life.
Yeah.
What board games?
Twilight Imperium. For those who
Okay.
know. Yeah.
That's like, so one of our friends, a mutual friend, keeps telling me I need to play, but purely we need to gang up on you, apparently, because I know that you love a challenge in a board game, and you like to be able to like just win and beat everyone. So
Hey, count me in. I loved ganging up on Duke.
that kind of, I feel like, is how the rest of the coaching staff are. It's like, oh, Duke feels like one way, let's gang up on him.
Yeah. Just because I have a French accent.
There's a long tradition.
Apparently, which I don't, obviously.
Obviously.
Mostly from New York accent, as you guys can see.
Yeah,
there's a long tradition of ganging up on the head coach and memeing the head coach at Splyce. The mantle has passed from Peter to Duke now.
Yeah.
How are you wearing that mantle? Is it
it
one you wear with pride?
I'm embracing it during the draft. I have to say all the French names with the French accent so that the players can have a laugh for 30 seconds. I can say Leblanc, I can say Fiora, those kind of names, and then the players feel better about their own accent.
Why is this not getting on mic check, Riot? Like that?
Because we don't pick Fiora and Leblanc, but when we will, yeah,
okay.
the memes are ready.
I'm so ready for that. We'll be there. We'll get the voice clips as well. So 3 days off, but that obviously means the rest of the time is scrimming and practicing as usual. Do you feel like that gives you, this might sound like a dumb question, but I think a lot of people, when you look at Rift Rivals, say, okay, G2 are going to be tired, they're going to be burnt out. Do you think that scrimming for the majority of that break puts you on an even footing with them about the amount of work that's been done, or do you still think that they'd be tired?
I think it depends how seriously people take the Rift Rivals tournament, which...
We can get into that if you want to.
Didn't seem that serious, especially from a G2 kind of perspective. They seemed to be kind of just picking whatever they wanted and having fun with it. It's really nice to go and get the kind of international experience, and especially if you treat it as a holiday kind of thing and take it in a fairly relaxed manner. I think it can benefit the team a lot, and having experiences together actually makes the team closer. Whereas when you stay in the same place and practice for 3 weeks without any, because it's like 3 full calendar weeks between matches, you don't have any match at the end of the week to kind of check your progress, to say, okay, you did this well this week, good, or you still need to improve on this. You don't have that to see kind of how are we doing at the end of the week. And you need to be really structured about setting really clear goals for improvement throughout the process, because if you just scrim for 3 weeks kind of for the sake of scrimming without really clear set goals to improve on, like, okay, we need to improve our vision setup, we need to improve our lane assignments, we need to use TP advantage better, things like this, like really clear measurable goals that the players can see and feel that they're improving on, then it's really easy to kind of lose track of what you're actually working on and lose motivation and just not be really united and working towards something as a team. Yeah, so it doesn't always work out as being the best thing to scrim for multiple weeks, just scrims.
Yeah, it feels like it's one of those situations where like you could go, okay, there's not really a wrong road to go down on practice and scrimming, right? But as you said, you might not have that check-in, and if you're not getting that competition at the end of the week, it can be tricky to get that, which week to week in the LEC I guess we get, right? Is hey, we practice this, we see it. I guess on the side of like taking Rift Rivals seriously, you guys, I wasn't a part of Splyce when we were at Rift Rivals last year. Did you both go?
Yep.
I'm again trying to put pieces in my mind. Like, how was your thought process going into the Rift Rivals that you played at?
The thing is, when we went to Rift Rivals, we were like 7th or 8th.
Yeah, we were 0-4.
No, we were 2-4.
2-4.
2-4.
Yeah.
And we had 2-4 coming back from a 0-4. So we didn't take it as something, like it was just pure experience for us. And so we didn't take it too seriously, but it was a pretty good experience for us because it allowed us to kind of have 3 games without much pressure. And in the end, it was a fun trip and EU won. And we still won a game, so it was fine.
You were the saviors.
Yeah, we were the saviors after doing 3 terrible games with 3 terrible drafts. And yeah, no, it was pretty good, but the problem was more coming back when you are really exhausted with the back-to-back jet lag. That's why this year they have one more week. But I think overall it was more positive experience for us. And I think this year, while we had a lot of practice, it was a bit harder indeed to always have the right focus and the right motivation, especially I would say at the end of last week, where I would say the motivation was dropping a bit because it had been so much time without a goal at the end of the week. So time will tell. I think we made some progress on some stuff, but I think at the moment we are in a situation where a lot of things need to kind of click together, and I would say we are not totally there yet.
Okay. I mean, I think we hear that from a lot of teams, right? Is that like it is a process. And I know that certainly the way that historically Splyce as a team have been is kind of a ramping up towards playoffs rather than a starting strong and then, you know, like a Vitality where it's just like you go on a streak and then burn out and everybody figures out how you play. Like it feels kind of the opposite of that. So like I'm excited to see where the games go. We obviously have SK first, who are sat right beneath us in the standings. But do you think the standings currently reflect SK's positioning?
More or less. I don't think it's that unfair with SK because I think they're a team that's fairly consistent in the way that they play. I don't think there's a huge amount of variance with kind of how they win or lose games. But standings are always a bit weird during the first half of the split because strength of schedule plays a really, really big factor. So we're third right now, but we also had Rogue and XL, which are, I mean, I don't think Rogue are bad at all actually, but in theory, coming into it, everyone thought these were 2 of the weaker teams. So 2 of our wins have come already, and I'm sure there are teams that haven't played either of them yet, or haven't played, you know, XL and SK and Rogue or something like that, and will get a higher chance of picking up wins. So standings can be deceptive right now.
Yeah, but I think SK are pretty good. I think actually everyone is pretty good except XL, I guess. Maybe Misfits. To be fair, I don't really know about Misfit. I think maybe I have a biased opinion about them because we haven't played them yet, and how they've been playing for 1 year and a half. But yeah, I don't think Rogue are bad at all. I think SK can be pretty good. I think they showed some really good stuff in the past 6 months. So I think the standings are pretty accurate at the moment. I think we should be slightly favourite against SK, but I think it should be a close match. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we played them in the first round of playoffs last split.
It was pretty close.
It was. I think, though, that generally, and I don't know whether they've changed since then, generally it felt like if they weren't getting it to work through jungle early, that was like their weakness. Do you see any changes from SK from spring to summer?
I mean, they changed their top laner that is a bit more carry-oriented and a bit less... maybe a leader. The thing is we don't have the comms, right? But it seems that Welly was also initiating a lot of plays from SK. So they changed a bit their play style. But anyway, I think the player to look at is for sure self-made. Where he goes, usually like he will dictate the game. So I hope that this time he will buy an Infinity Edge on something else and we win the game.
Of course, the famous Rek'Sai game.
He does it on Elise this time. Maybe after playing some teamfight tactics.
Yeah, you're gonna see Elise come out with just the most random items. But how do you think that jungle matchup's gonna go right now? Because I think Zirkzee is somebody that people always talk about as like within the top junglers, but then nobody's ever like, okay, right now he's the top jungler, even though sometimes we feel like that internally. How do you think Xerxes kind of sits right now? Either of you, if you have an opinion on it.
I think, so normally there are kind of, broadly speaking, two kinds of junglers.
Mm-hmm.
And there are junglers who are really efficient with their pathing, and there are junglers who are really good at ganking lanes, and they don't actually care that much about their camps because they get their lanes ahead. That, in the last year or so with the jungle changes, has kind of, the two have become a lot closer, and you have to be a lot better at ganking lanes now than you did before. You can't play for jungle camps as aggressively as you could before, or not exclusively at least. But I think Xerxes and Selfmade are actually quite similar in a lot of respects. I mean, Selfmade has a lot more potential to do wacky stuff. I remember especially before he joined LEC, he used to do loads of really, really weird stuff. Like doing Krugs into top gank before taking a buff, or like weird stuff like that. He used to be really cheesy. But since joining the LEC, I think he's actually a lot more standard. And usually when you have two kind of standard junglers facing off against each other, they both just know exactly where the other one is all the time. And when I've seen Xerxes and Selfmade play each other before, that tends to be the case. Both of them actually just know where the other one is all the time. And it's just about who can execute better on punishing whichever side of the map the draft allows you to.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I've not been in any scrims or anything, so this isn't a leak or anything, don't worry. But the one pick we saw in LCS last week that publicly Xerxes played a ton of on release was that Silas jungle. So I'm like, I wonder whether we're going to see that come through again. That's not a leak.
No chance.
No chance? Nothing? Zero? That's such a shame. Maybe we'll see it sometime. Xerxes will just have to stream and we'll see it on live. Obviously, second game, I think, is with as much respect as we're giving to SK, I think the second game is a team that not only are doing great right now, but have been a bit of a foil for us every single time we play them. We play Fnatic on Saturday. They're still undefeated as of this recording. So how do we stop Fnatic? 4-person, 5-person ganking bot lane level 2. Do we think they're going to do that again? Because every single time against us, they seem to do it.
Maybe not, because they kind of changed their style in Summer Split. The same way that they changed their style from Spring Split to Summer Split last season. They were really bot focused last split, and at the moment they're way more diversified. Sometimes they go through Bwipo, they go a lot towards mid to have Nemesis. I think they're way more balanced at the moment, and they're way more lane focused. So I would say it's a way more aggressive version of Fnatic. So I think they're way better now, but I think they are still beatable for sure. So yeah, I'm not gonna tell you exactly our approach to this match, but
yeah, of course.
I would say that I would say before they had one way to play the game in Spring Split. It was super straightforward. You knew what was coming, but it doesn't mean that you could prevent it. Now they have multiple ways to play the game, but they can also be like you can also expect how they're gonna play if you understand the map properly. But it's a tough match, but yeah, I think we have our chance to break the streak.
Mac, you're sitting there with a smile. I hear the words more aggressive Fnatic, and that scares me.
Yeah, I mean, Fnatic's one of those teams where you know that they're going to fight you to the death, and sometimes you just have to take a swing and kind of not 50-50 coin flip the game, but you have to just back yourself and be confident that you can execute as well as they can, and sometimes you just have to fight them. And a lot of the time, Fnatic that's why Fnatic is so good, is because they're really good at those fights which are kind of really on the knife's edge. So I guess it's tough. It's a really tough opponent to face because like Duke said, you know what they're going to do, and you just have to back yourself to do it better in certain regards. So you kind of just have to trust in your players and draft what you know your team is best with.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the draft. I'm looking forward to seeing the games as well. I think that obviously coming into a new patch, this might be the first time in a very long time we've had 2 new champions available that wasn't coming off like a full preseason or postseason rework.
Zyra Khan?
Fair, okay, you got it right there. Rare instance. Anyway, for it, we have the new Mordekaiser and is it Kiana? Is that how you pronounce? Are we going to see either of them? And if
I think it's no secret for everyone that Mordekaiser is really strong.
Yeah.
I'm still not totally decided on the champion, fully decided, but it's really strong. Kiana, maybe. I think some players like it's. I wouldn't be surprised if a player like Caps plays it or something. Because I think it can be strong, but in some situations. So we might see some of them, but it's not that easy to pick. I would say in the meta, but it's playable.
Does this now, and obviously you can't give too much away going into draft, but I think most LEC coaches will already kind of realize this if it is true. Does this heavily affect now even more picking blue side over red side? Because red side potentially in a situation where you have to ban Mordekaiser, you have to ban some of the other picks that were already top tier.
I put my joker on this question.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's all right. Like as I said, like I think most coaches will know it, but we don't want information out there in public. But at least from my side, I'm like, oh, okay, if Mordekaiser is that strong, because there's so many weird instances, like basically always wins a Baron Smite fight because you just remove the other jungler if you're like lane Mordekaiser. Like you can remove an AD carry from a team fight and potentially just crush the rest of the team. Like it feels like a mechanic that is just a little bit broken beyond what we've seen from other champions in the past.
There's a lot you can do with it, and there are a lot of champions right now who have weird game-breaking mechanics, like Yuumi, like Sylas with all the ultis, like Mordekaiser. And I think it's a really strange meta right now, because before you would always have, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 kind of OP champions, you know, and the draft would often revolve around trading like 1 for 2. And right now it feels like there are so many champions that are really strong. It's that you come into a draft, it's like, oh, there are 9 power picks left up right now. So it's a really strange process to go through as a coach, figuring out, okay, which of these power picks are worth trading? How strong are they compared to each other? How good are they against each other? And how good are my players at all of these power picks? There are so many variables right now in the draft. It's really crazy.
Yeah, that sounds ridiculous. And mentioning Sylas as well, I'm like, oh god, we're going to have Sylas in a game with Mordekaiser, stealing Mordekaiser, ulting somebody else. It's just...
But they can meet each other afterwards. So if Mordekaiser is someone and Sylas is one of Mordekaiser's teammates, they are all 4 in the room.
Oh, you all go to the same...
that's what I heard.
Okay.
We haven't seen it, but that's what I heard.
Somebody needs to do the testing out there to double check, because I think that's pretty rare. Funnily enough, I was in a game with the Sylas and Mordekaiser the other day. I didn't even think about that being a thing.
Maybe it's bullshit, by the way, but I heard a discussion about it and people were trying to see if it would work. But
I mean, the whole champion is pretty BS as a whole. Like playing against it is not fun. So I'm excited to see what exactly happens with the draft.
I prefer having Mordekaiser in the game than having Yuumi, for example. I think. I think Yuumi is a total. Like it's just a big design problem for the game. Like the champion, it's like, you know, it has the same feeling than the old Nidalee, and even if I preferred the old Nidalee to Yuumi, it's a champion that no one likes to play with or against. It's like Sona as a carry.
Okay.
It's really non-interactive. And it's super frustrating to play against because you can't really engage. You can't escape from it either. You can't hit it obviously, and pretty passive play style in general. I really think the champion, like for me, the champion should just be like destroyed so that so that it's not played in competitive. I think it really brings no value in competitive play.
Permabanned.
Yeah, like Sona and Yuumi really there is no interest having those champions in the game.
They're very obnoxious champions.
Yeah, I found the one for me, obviously up until Yuumi and that, Tahm Kench was always that for me through like 2017 and that, where I'm like, it's just not fun.
I get that it's first, but the thing is, the sole purpose of Tahm Kench, the problem is that the Riot changed their game so much that AD carry shouldn't really exist in this game. I mean, regular AD carries, Ashe, Varus, those kind of champions with all the mobility creep that appeared and power creep in general with champions like Aurelia, Jarv, and Akali. Like that, they shouldn't be allowed to play the game. And Tahm Kench is the only reason they can. So yes, it's sometimes a bit frustrating, but I think it was nerfed so much that now it's not like now Tahm Kench can hit 3 people during a team fight. It can save once while still being static a carry. And I think now if you remove Tahm Kench, it's as if you are removing 10 champions of the game. So I think it's still really important to have Tahm Kench in the game. Well, I think removing Yumi, Zoe, and Sona is not a problem for anyone.
And Zoe as well.
Yeah, Zoe is the same. Zoe is like having just the possibility of deleting someone from one screen away without any risk on the low cooldown. I mean, it's literally the exact same reason, and worse because she has a CC with this. Why they reworked Nidalee before?
Yeah.
And they created a champion that does what Nidalee did, but in better.
Yeah, even safer.
Yeah.
Even,
with a CC. So
And can flash 10 times in a team fight.
Yeah. Again, those champions, like I don't mind some champions that are really strong, really OP. For example, I don't really mind Aurelia. I think she's maybe slightly overtuned kit-wise, but she has some counterplay, and she needs to be extremely skilled to be played. My problem with those champions, even the champion like LeBlanc is a bit like I have some doubts about it. The fact that you can safely do something that has basically no real counter on a short cooldown and then back off is a problem. So Yumi Q, LeBlanc, W, Zoe, Poke. It's not that we're not going to abuse it. Last year we abused Zoe a lot, but I think the champion shouldn't exist in the game.
Well, there's a petition. We'll get one, get some signatures. One thing, I don't know whether you feel strongly enough to say it should be removed from the game, but we were talking briefly about teamfight tactics. I think we have to talk about it a little bit before you guys head off for scrims for the day. Some teams I know have publicly talked about how much it's affecting team staff and players and coaches. How is Splyce dealing with teamfight tactics?
Well, I hate RNG games, so...
So you already love the game.
I am totally safe. I do not need to play teamfight tactics whatsoever. The players have played it a bit, but I don't think we've noticed a real problem with it at all.
I would say the week of release a bit.
Yeah, a tiny bit. But I don't think it's... I actually don't think the game looks like that much fun. And I think people get kind of bored of it pretty quickly once they realize that it's just like this RNG carousel thing where it's like, maybe I win this time. I don't know. It feels like a slot machine. Like,
yeah,
it is.
Maybe I get the right champions. And I think once people have had their initial kind of burst of addictive behavior, they realize that the game actually isn't that deep or that much fun. I could be wrong. Maybe there are loads of people that still love it, but I don't think it's affected our players that much for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, we track the number of solo queues that they do every week, and they have a minimum that they have to reach, which has been almost fine for everyone. And I think, and I don't think TFT, like some of them are playing TFT, but I don't think like there's anyone addicted to TFT to the point where he will play like 5 games in a row. I hope. The thing is, it doesn't appear in match history, so I can't check when they are back home, right?
You never know. They're just not sleeping and owning.
But I'm not really afraid of it. Like, again, and I think there is a bit of depth to it. It's not like pure RNG. I played a lot of auto chess, a lot of auto chess, and so I tried teamfight tactics. I played like 15 games. I think the game is really bad, but I guess that people who never played those kind of games, who never played RNG game, and who are also really used to games where you have to be super invested in it. Suddenly they have a game where they can kind of chill, talk, and it's more a fun experience. While sometimes they're being rewarded, whether they're good or not, you are always sometimes rewarded a bit. And if you are really good, you are rewarded more often than the others. So it's like a bit like playing poker, but without instead of having something that is not really fun to play, like poker, I mean not fun, like just coins and cards. You have something that is closer to what you usually like, which is League Champions. But for auto battles, I don't know how it's called, compared to auto. For someone who played that much auto chess, I really don't see the point of playing teamfight. It's worse on pretty much every aspect. Maybe the item system could be better, but the thing is, they're also really OP, and the game depends on it so much that actually I almost prefer items in auto chess. Comps are super straightforward. I feel like the point you don't have much choice actually in TFT. It's whether you are given a path by the game in the first 5 rounds, and whether you are good and you are able to understand the few key hints that the game gives you to what's your way to victory, and you will take it. If you know, like I would say, let's say at best the best 5 comps available. I think you can even, in TFT there is not even 5 comps, but whatever, and else you lose. I mean, I don't think the game is that interactive, and maybe it can be good in the future, but I think at the moment extremely overhyped just because people are discovering what it is to play a RNG chill game, which maybe they can go to the casino for the same stuff.
I think that's fair on the people just discovering it. I think that's the big thing. I think is TFT is probably, with the patches to the items, streamline it. I think it's probably going to get sorted out quite quickly. I think for Riot, it's like probably weren't expecting it to be as big as it is. So they're like, oh damn, now we actually have to like patch this game and actually figure stuff out. So I mean, on the plus side for me, I think more eyes being on League in general is better, because it's bringing interest back to the game. Not that League was really on the decline, but certainly like everybody had felt that player numbers had dropped a little bit. So it's good to have a lot of people back on the client, even if it does mean logging queues every so often.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think when you are on social media and you hear people getting super hyped about teamfight tactics as if like it's a really I can understand. I mean, I don't really understand that it's an addictive game, because but imagine for me, for auto chess, I was a bit addicted to auto chess, so I can understand where they're coming from. But yeah, the game is kind of so shallow that I don't understand how people can be that invested into it, playing multiple games. For me, it's a kind of a decent mobile game, and decent mobile game that has a lot of RNG into it. But it's a good thing, I guess. I just hope that it doesn't become the main League game, because then it will be pretty sad.
It won't. I mean, there's almost no chance of that, right? But I think inevitably people go back to playing League a little bit more than they were. So I hope so too. Well, okay, no Teamfight Tactics problems here. Let us know if you're spamming out Teamfight Tactics games in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, I should say, on Spotify, congratulations. We actually did get it up on Spotify. Coming soon to Apple Podcast as well. I think that's pretty much it for us for this week from Duke, Mac, and myself. If you've got any questions for us for the next episode, feel free to leave them in the comments as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe here on YouTube, and we will catch you in a couple of weeks for episode 3.